So we want to go ahead and get started because I know we have a pretty tight schedule and others can just pop on and we'll get going. Has Les made it here yet? Not?
He is not. I got a message from him that he thinks he may not be able to pop in. So you might be solo to begin. But.
All right. Well, at any rate, thank you everybody for agreeing to be a part of this. What I think is one of the most important things we can do as we consider this work, because we have a chance. Number one, we are proposing to do something that we've not done before in the state, and that is maximizing what we can do with the creative arts. That's something new and different that honestly, a lot of our legislators and many other people are having a hard time getting a hold of, just that whole notion that we can do things differently and understand the widespread focus and I think impact of the creative arts. But we said from the very beginning when we started this process that we wanted to be inclusive. We wanted this to be about all Arkansans, and we know that is not an easy thing to do. So this is every time we have a boot camp of any kind, we try to make sure we're adding something that maybe we've not talked about before. We've talked about it, but we've not expanded that conversation. So I'm glad that all of you are here today so that we can have this conversation in a way that it's a very open and honest, and nobody pretends they know everything about everything, but our presenters, I have great faith in today because I know them and know of them. And so I look forward to our having a great conversation. So with that, Erin, who was up first, my phone just went off. And so I got to find my agenda here. Okay, so with that, we've got introductions. You are next.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, Senator Elliott. First of all, I do want to thank Senator Elliott and Representative Les Warren, who cannot join us today, for co-chairing the boot camps and for co-founding the Legislative Arts Caucus. So thank you so much for that. I'm Erin Holliday. I see some familiar faces here. I work with Arkansans for the Arts and the Arts and Technology boot camps, which have been taking place around the state since last fall. Thank you to all of our legislators who are here today and everyone who's participated in the boot camps. For those who were not able to attend, as you guys heard, this is being recorded, so we'll make sure that all of our boot camp members get this information. So a little bit of housekeeping. I always do this at the beginning of a Zoom. Please remain muted. I think everyone is muted right now, so thank you for that. But feel free to use the chat function throughout the event. You may be able to get your questions answered in the middle of the event. We will have a Q&A at the end. If we don't get to your question, we will try to get that answered for you and get it back to you. Today's boot camp is focusing on community development in Arkansas. We'll hear about successful community development programs in our state, learn about what community development is, why it's important. I reside in Hot Springs, where I'm the Executive Director of Emergent Arts, which is our local arts center. I also serve on the City Board of Directors. I'm a graduate of the Community Development Institute. We'll learn a little bit about that. And I'm a certified professional community and economic developer. And so I am personally really pleased that we're talking about community development with respect to the arts in Arkansas, and specifically about how the arts improves our quality of life. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our presenters. We're going to start with Talisha Richardson, who's here. She's the Executive Director of 64/6 Downtown in Fort Smith. She will discuss creative placemaking and the impact that 64/6 has had on Fort Smith's community and economy, how they began and where they are now. We'll then hear from Mary Zunik, who is the Cultural Affairs Manager for Visit Hot Springs. She will touch on the creative economy, how the arts influence quality of life and tourism, and then talk specifically about a project called Art Moves that's here in Hot Springs. She has called in today. We weren't sure if she was going to make it, but what I do have is a video presentation that she's prepared for us. And so she'll be here to answer questions later on as well. Also, Dr. Lenoir Schultz of Arkansans for the Arts will speak to the importance of the arts in documenting and celebrating local history and placemaking. And then we'll wrap up with Shelby Fiegel, who is the director, and this is a lot, director of the University of Central Arkansas Center for Community and Economic Development and the Community Development Institute, which is CDI. She'll talk about CDI, give an overview of what community development is, how it impacts economic development, and how the arts are really integral to growing vibrant communities here in our state. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Talisha.
Thank you, Erin. Are you going to be able to share screen with me? And good afternoon, everyone. As Erin stated, my name is Talisha Richardson. I'm with 64.6 Downtown in Fort Smith, Arkansas. We are a nonprofit organization based in Fort Smith, obviously, but we specialize in downtown revitalization, if you will. I'm going to share my screen with you here in just a moment. Erin, can you see the screen? Can everyone see the screen okay? Awesome, awesome. So I'm going to quickly go through my slides. I do have a prior engagement with the Arkansas Arts Council. They're coming up for a tour of the murals of the unexpected this afternoon. So I apologize, but I will leave time for questions. So please bear with me as I go through these slides. This particular presentation takes about 45 minutes to an hour. And I have my slides rolling through to give you all an idea of who we are and what we do. Our mission is basically to move with high degree of excellence, maximizing the programming of the unexpected, what we've done in our Garrison Commons Pocket Park, as well as being a part of the downtown master plan called Propelling Downtown Forward. That is where the community development and economic development comes into play. When our organization was founded by Steve Clark in 2015, you could not buy a cup of coffee in downtown Fort Smith. Now we have 2 coffee shops, one that had actually expanded downtown. So we have a total of 3. And to me, that's a testament because the first place you could get a cup of coffee was a local coffee shop or a local gas station. So what type of artist in 2015 could not or would not want to be a part of something that was on the brink of becoming something great? We pride ourselves on relationships. And if we were not in the position that we are of influence with regard to art, we have things of this nature taking place. This is in 2015. We had one of our international artists present her works in a gallery that was basically a pop-up gallery. That's how raw and unfiltered we started. It was just an underutilized building. A property owner gave us permission to be in that particular building. And we worked with the city of Fort Smith to bypass a few things that could allow us to be in the building temporarily. This is Garrison Commons Pocket Park, which is a prime example of state funding in combination with private sector funding. This park, we were able to use a GIF grant to take an abandoned area that was once a restaurant that was burned down on our main street and turn it into a pocket park with electrical outlets for 2 food trucks. We incorporated this mural that's actually a scrape of the plaster, and it's called Cherokee Man. Another opportunity that we had here is at Gateway Park. This particular park, if you see in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, Acuda San Miguel did this art installation here back in 2016. It got so much attention, people started having their wedding receptions or wedding ceremonies in front of this space. When we decided to tear that particular structure down because the owner wanted to sell the building, we created 3 structures that were, how can I say this? Were very instrumental in the development of Fort Smith. From Judge Isaac C. Parker, we had the godfather, if you will, of education, John Cornell, as well as Mother Superior Farrell that we added. When we look at activations, we also look at how can we go beyond what is typical. This is actually a skating bike park activation. So a lot of times when people think 646 or the unexpected, they think murals, murals, murals. But sometimes you have to experiment and see what the possibilities are and what people in the area desire. We did not have a true skate and bike park. And what you're about to see in the next slide is the activation of private sector and public sector coming together to build a skate park that's world renowned. This is the grand opening of that skate and bike park. You'll see the art influences with the arrow sticking in. That's just a head nod to DeFace when he did his arrow install in downtown Fort Smith. You see the state of Arkansas painted in the background. We had a lot of people coming out in celebration of that, and it was a true partnership within our community that we're very, very proud of. The next slide is we try to make sure we educate. And with the creative economy, we have to make sure that we place what creative placemaking means in layman's terms. So we try to break it down as if we're speaking to elementary kids. What is creative placemaking? What is the creative economy, and how can you contribute to that? That means your writing. That means when you walk into a building and you hear music, that's contributing to the creative economy. When you walk into a building and you see interior design, those are all aspects that contribute to creative economy. So we start at a young age and make sure people are well versed. Now, this particular piece here, I wanted to show it simply because this is one where the property owners still do not want this piece of artwork on their building. It is not a mural. It is actually made of plastic. And it's a great, great piece that we like because it keeps attention on our downtown Main Street. You can see where there's actually activation. Now we have other pieces that other businesses that are coming up in that particular corridor. And it's because we're activating it, whether you like it or not. And here's another piece. There were a lot of people that begged us to take this particular piece down. But sometimes beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I feel the same thing about art, that just because it may not be appealing to you, it may be appealing to someone else, and it may be thought-provoking. I think that we all have a tad bit of artistry in us if we're left to let that flow. This here is another partnership we had with Yadika Field, an artist that also showed his works at Crystal Bridges. He's of Native American descent, and he is helping a student. We did a combination or collaboration with the Fort Smith Symphony, where we actually had the artworks of these students and a piece by Yadika Fields that went up for auction for an event as a fundraiser for 646 downtown. Always seek to just really maximize your relationships and nurture them by taking them to the next level. So the University of Arkansas worked with us on that, as well as this piece that you have here. This is University of Arkansas at Fort Smith, students contributing to our artworks downtown with this piece of Alfonso Trent. Mr. Trent was one of the first jazz performers in Fort Smith in the early 1900s, and this was his tribute. And he is our first African-American person that's in a piece in downtown Fort Smith. We also want to be mindful of DEI. So we try to make sure that we acknowledge various history months. And this is a piece that shows our Black History Month. If you look at the titles of those panelists, we had a makeup artist, a chef, literary artist, a singer, and choreographer. We look at that and we push that as these are people that are contributing to the local, to the River Valley art scene, if you will, that may not get the same publicity as others. The next slide shows our need to focus on mental health. Again, pre-COVID, Fort Smith had one of the highest rates of suicide and mental issues, if you will. So we were intentional with a grant sponsored by the Arkansas Heritage Foundation of bringing Ben Imes' work to Fort Smith. His piece was inspired by his own troubles as a youth, and he decided to inspire other youth with hope. And this is his piece called Imagine. We had the Western Arkansas Ballet students come and perform in full before this particular piece at its unveiling, and it was a big hit in our community. We always try our best to involve all aspects of our community, our young, our seasoned individuals, and everyone in between. This is, again, another piece where we don't want to leave anyone behind. None of you will ever see this. Why? Because it's in our juvenile detention center. LaQuena and her sister came in and they took the words from Maya Angelou's piece, I Rise, and placed it in the basketball court in this colorful, bright, vibrant piece that you see here. And again, to give the children in that particular situation hope beyond their current circumstances. Here you see Alex Berard practicing with ballet students as well for his performance, because we again want to try to do our best to push the conversation of art beyond what people look at as traditional art, going into a museum, going outside a museum and seeing outdoor artworks. His piece was inspired and it was first performed here in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And this is what you see, the music, the smoke. It was a true performance. We had over 250 people in this performance. Again, we're trying to challenge the thoughts, challenge the mindset of our community and expose them to the various forms of art while engaging the community in that discussion. Next, this was our other hope, that we would try to, again, move away from murals and expand. We've just done a phenomenal job of being one of the state's largest collection of outdoor artworks. We have over 30 artworks in our downtown and surrounding areas. But we want to, again, challenge people to go beyond murals. And we challenge you and with others within the state to go beyond the traditional form of murals, to again, to expand the reach of everyone that we have. Another expansion of ours is into live music, diverse genres of live music on our riverfront. And this is just a concert series that we received a grant from the Levitt Foundation out of LA to put on 10 free concerts in our community to push diversity, to push the arts and culture, and try to find a common ground for people to meet and engage. And you'll see from the performances there that we're almost there, and we're in the finishing touches of a 3-year grant with the Levitt Foundation. This is our lineup from this current year. Again, we're taking a nod from the unexpected and making sure that we bring in diverse talent, very diverse genres of music so people can engage. Our area is very country, red dirt. You don't get a lot of R&B. You don't get a lot of hip hop, bluegrass. You don't get a lot of folk music, neo soul, Tejano music. So we want to make sure we have this open to all. Another thing that we're doing at 646 is making sure that we spread the information that we have. Because we're a very lean organization, we do contract out for services. Initially, we tried to give our information away, but we found that we were getting very overwhelmed and not being able to do our jobs. So we do have consulting services that we offer around the community. And we do external work. And this was a work that we did at a local business, ArcBest, for one of their rooms that they were renovating. We're also, as far as maintaining our murals, we're doing pop-up events. This is one that was done by Hoxa. He came in last summer in Arkansas in July during the Peacemaker Festival to bring this piece to us. We had tons of senior pictures taken there. And again, it allows us to continue to try different things by recognizing how much our community loves our murals, but making sure that we take it to that next level. And this final piece here, I really love because Snooper's Barn is a used bookstore. And that particular owner is not technology savvy. She made it through COVID-19. And she basically said, Talisha, when you guys installed that mural, I saw my business increase. With no internet, with no Facebook, with no access to social media, this 70 to 80-year-old woman saw benefit with the unexpected. And she talked about how often people came to visit, shop, did not know she was in the area because of that particular activation. She also mentioned that it brought attention to her sidewalks. Again, that's another factor that we don't realize is a part of our development, the works that we do. By putting in outdoor murals or artworks or activating space, we bring attention to things that need to be done for people to easily access our exhibits, our works. Again, that goes into that other demographic that sometimes gets left behind, those with disabilities, if you will, limited access to things and mobility. So I just wanted to make sure I ended on that note and how we're trying to move forward and not leave anyone behind in our discussion of the creative economy and how we practice creative placemaking. Any questions?
Well, I don't have a question, but that was certainly impressive, Talisha. My goodness, what a lot of work you've done, and how beautiful and how thoughtful and how inclusive. And that's one of the things I mentioned earlier, that we really have to be intentional about making sure in these communities that we are thinking about the entire community, because if not, all of us are susceptible to falling into just what we've been doing. One of the things we said very, very early is how we want to democratize the arts, and that is to push ourselves to move outside of what we've just been used to as the arts. Because if we don't, we certainly can't maximize, the economic possibility. And one thing you mentioned you got a GIF grant, and I imagine a lot of folks on here have never heard that term before, or if you did, it might have been in a negative way. But a GIF grant from the government is from Arkansas, no longer available, because those were the grants that, as a legislator, each of us had an allotment of funds that we could make sure in our community we could fund certain things. And that was a really, really good thing that we've lost, because we had a few bad actors. And because of that, people, even the regular people, talked about it as this awful, awful bad thing. So now that is no longer available for me to be an advocate in my community for funds that I can actually have more to say about it. But that was one of the great ways to respond to some of the things that we tend not to do. So they're gone, and it's too bad, but you made good. They might live on, though.
That's right.
What you're doing. So that's great. I see a question, in the chat, I see.
I'll answer that question. What we do with those vacant lots is we basically go to the owner. And if we don't know the owner, we basically find someone that does. And sometimes it may take a month to find and build a rapport with that individual. We have one particular property that we had our eye on 5 years ago. And it was out crossing, which is on the far east side. And we were able to contact that individual through another contact after 5 years to get a water silo actually painted. It took 5 years for that. And that community was like, how in the world did you do that? And it wasn't us, it was just connection with a connection with a connection with a connection. And showing that individual that we're not a part of that group, whatever that group did or whatever that group said, this is who we are. So sometimes it's proper separation, but also, again, going back to relationships, maintaining those relationships. We have people coming to us, offering their buildings to us to take over, and they want us to pay for everything. And we're like, no, that's not how that works. But we have our eye on something. We just are very persistent with it. And we know when properties are changing hands. We had one property that just changed hands where we were looking to reactivate a particular mural there. And the person, I said, call me when you go through your closing. They didn't even know that I knew that they were the person buying the building. That's how much research we do. And once I found out that individual, I told him, I said, just let us know, because this is how this process works. He called me as soon as before the ink even dried. He had just left his closing. And he said, let me get through this amount of time and then I'll contact you and see what we can do. I cannot say how important your relationships in your downtown corridors or wherever your focus area is. You cannot minimize those, and don't give up. Just don't give up. Stay persistent and keep a positive attitude, because you never know when that individual may turn around or that property may change ownership.
Great.
Are there any last questions? I know, Talisha, you've got to scoot here in about a minute. But personally, I want to say, you know, I've kept up with Fort Smith, but just this 10 minutes that you said all things Fort Smith, I have learned so much about the other things that are going on there, and it's incredibly inspiring. I remember driving through Fort Smith when I used to go to college, and yes, you're right, there was no coffee or anything else when you drove through downtown, really not that long ago. And the work that's happened with your organization and just the conversations you guys have prompted are really exciting. All of us in the arts know that we get plenty of people who don't like what we do often, but quite frankly, they come around. And so I commend everything that's going on there, you know, personally, and it's exciting. You guys are a great example for us here in Arkansas and inspiring for other communities. So I love that you were able to join us today. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And if anyone wants to have a sidebar conversation, please feel free to give me a call. I'll put my phone number in the chat for you, and then we can kind of go from there. I will not charge you a consultant fee because I feel as though I'm among friends. But you, again, would be amazed at the number of emails and requests that we get here. And again, thank you everyone for this opportunity. And I hope everyone remains safe and has a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, Talisha. So we're going to move forward. Next, we're going to hear from Mary Zunik with Visit Hot Springs. Like I said earlier, I do have a video that she has prepared. We weren't sure if she was going to make it today. She is here via phone if we have questions later, but I'm going to go ahead and share her video, and then the rest of our Q&A will be at the end of all of our presenters. So here is Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Zunik. I'm the Cultural Affairs Manager for Visit Hot Springs. As part of my job, I work with the local arts organizations and local artists to promote Hot Springs as an arts destination. But if it's a great place for tourists to come and visit, it's even a better place to live and be a member of our creative economy here in Hot Springs. So I've prepared a few slides to share with you about one of our projects that really works to build our community. And so I'm going to share my screen with you. There we go. Okay, here we go. The Hot Springs Area Cultural Alliance, the mission of the organization, this is the primary organization that I work with, but of course with many different arts organizations to promote music, film, and different arts festivals that we have throughout the year. The mission is to celebrate, advocate, and promote the arts and culture of our community. One way we do this is through a 10-day arts festival each spring. We just wrapped up Arts in the Park. Of course, we want people to come here for the 10-day festival, but we want them to come throughout the other 365 days a year as well. But just to share a little bit of information about the economic impact of an arts festival, the 10-day festival, using the Americans for the Arts and Prosperity Economic 5 calculator, our 10-day arts festival contributed over $400,000 to our local economy. So the equivalent of about 7.5 full-time jobs. So that certainly contributes to create the local economy. That would make any chamber of commerce happy if a small business was coming to town to add a few jobs. It also contributes about $200,000 to local households, not to mention the tens of thousands it adds through taxes paid. That information can be found on the Americans for the Arts website, but that's just one 10-day festival. So why art? Why art as a way to build the community? Arts it contributes to the quality of place. I moved to Hot Springs because of the arts and cultural opportunities, and I know many other people did as well. Businesses want to relocate in areas that offer more and more improved quality of life. One thing our organization does, we also want to offer arts opportunities and exposure to underserved communities, especially children. It should not be something just for the elite. We want art to be accessible for everyone. And of course, when a tourist comes to town, they have an even better experience in Hot Springs and memories if they're able to experience our local arts. And of course, arts and cultural tourism. People who travel for arts and culture, they stay longer and they spend more money. So those are great tourists to have. But we want our community to be able to enjoy the arts the rest of the year as well. The information that I've put together for you today is about Art Moves. It's an outdoor art exhibit. It's down along our Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail, and it's a temporary exhibit. So a new one goes up every year, stays up for 1 year, and then comes down to be replaced by the new exhibit. I was inspired for this project by the High Line in New York. It's community gardens built on what was formerly an elevated train, and there are original pieces of artwork on metal panels. We kind of drew inspiration from that and found a way to make that work in our local community. There aren't as many artists here who would feel comfortable creating original artwork on metal. So in our Art Moves art exhibit, we ask artists to submit original artwork based on a theme, and that artwork is reproduced through high resolution digital photos onto 30 by 40 inch metal panels, and it's expanded each year. This was our third year, and there are QR codes placed on the artwork so that the people who see the artwork can scan the QR code. It links to our website so they can find out the information about the artist statement and bio. And but it really is, with it being along the Greenway Trail, it's accessible to everyone in the community. The exhibit begins at Hollywood Park, which is a great community park next to a Habitat for Humanity neighborhood, next to the dog park. It's all handicap accessible, and moves along the beautiful Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail. There's the beginning of the Art Moves exhibit. It concludes at Majestic Park, which is a park that was just recently renovated with 5 AstroTurf baseball fields, where hundreds of families come every year for baseball tournaments. There's a great playground, but all of the families who come here have the opportunity to see artwork by Arkansas artists. There's a jogger going by, but there's families pushing strollers, and it's, like I said, accessible to everyone. Our theme this year was Creative Roots. We ask artists to submit artwork inspired by either our Arkansas heritage or their personal family heritage. One reason for this theme was to celebrate diversity. We as Arkansans come from a variety of backgrounds, and we wanted that to be included and celebrated as a part of this exhibit. We also want the diverse members of our community to be able to see their faces and artists who look like them as a part of the exhibit. Here on the left, you see the old railroad trestle with a piece by Bethany Newsom-Stillman, a Hot Springs artist. On the right, Kim Johnson, a Pine Bluff artist, with her artwork, New Orleans Matrimony in Arkansas, which was inspired by her family heritage that moved here moved here from New Orleans. This artwork is by Arkansas living treasure Long Hua Shu. That's him with his grandchildren celebrating his Chinese heritage with Year of the Tiger. And again, the QR code there that links to our website and with information about the artwork and the artist. So this really was an attempt to take art into the community. And every time when we're putting up a new exhibit, you see the people walking by and they're excited to see the new artwork. The Greenway Trail moves from downtown Hot Springs near the farmers market all the way almost to the lake. So through a number of different communities, it brings tourism, brings tourists out to our city parks. Of course, with the baseball fields there, it offers those visitors to Hot Springs an opportunity to enjoy our art. So please come down and visit us in Hot Springs and check out Art Moves. And if you can also find information at hotspringsarts.org for more information about the exhibit. So thanks again for allowing me to join you today, and hope to see you in Hot Springs.
Thank you to Mary Zunik. If you're still on the call, she should be here, like I said, via phone later if we have any questions, and feel free to use that chat function still if you have any questions. And so moving forward, we're going to hear from Dr. Lenoir Schultz, and she has asked me to go ahead and share her PowerPoint on my screen. So let me get that pulled up now, and then we'll hear from her.
All right, and you can advance to the next one. Every community's got a story, and everyone should be invited to the conversation, whether it's community development, tourism, creative placemaking, the creative economy. They're all most successful when they come from within the community, whether it's the community history, geography, the people, or people's creativity. Next slide. It takes an idea, and sometimes it takes a little bit of a time, but here's just a few examples. The Ozark Folk Festival in Eureka Springs started in 1948, and of course that's anchored in music. War Eagle started in 1954. Of course, that's crafts and music. The Pink Tomato Festival in Warren, Arkansas was established in 1956, and we have a lot of agricultural-based events in Arkansas. King Biscuit Blues Festival began in 1986. Each of these came about with a goal of growing their local economies through community assets, whether it was arts, agriculture, or history. Slide. Years ago in Mountain View, someone came up with the idea of contacting Jennings Osborne to see if he would do millions of Christmas lights in Mountain View. My question was, what does that have to do with Mountain View? And I went on to quip, we should be combining folk music and natural beauty rather than stringing lights and paying a huge electric bill. I had heard of people booking private tours and singing in the caverns at Blanchard Springs, and I thought, what if we put together an event where guests were seated rather than having to walk a mile, and the best folk musicians performed Christmas carols, and we sold tickets. Caroling in the Caverns is now over 20 years old and has been nationally featured as one of the best holiday traditions in America. Not only does this sell out every year, it reinforces folk music, the arts, and natural beauty. Slide. The Ozark Folk Center and Blanchard Springs Caverns have combined folk heritage and natural beauty for almost 50 years. In 1972, Stone County was the second poorest county in the state of Arkansas. It's now 51st. That's up 24th from the bottom, all anchored in the arts and natural beauty. Slide. Some ideas start in one place and spread across the state. Started in Mountain View by Renee Carr, the Arkansas Quilt Trail is extremely popular and has now spread to over 14 counties, with more joining all the time. Again, arts, tourism, and the creative economy. Slide. Some communities have an asset that might be joined with others throughout the state. Senator Elliott had an idea of a statewide tour of old churches that could be brought to the public through GIS, Geographic Information Systems. These are just a handful of the old churches that we know still exist all over the state, and they would make a great tour. Slide. The UCA team that created the sample Old Churches tour came up with the idea of a tour of old post office murals, and these still exist throughout the state. Both of these GIS tours are great examples of art and technology to grow the creative economy. They're also great examples of, in your community, it might be beneficial to link up with other ideas throughout the state and form a bigger idea statewide. Slide. The more we build to our strengths, the more unique Arkansas is going to be. And the more we support creativity in the arts, the better we're going to be able to keep coming up with new ideas to meet challenges and competition. It's important to include a variety of perspectives. Not only is it more fair, your end result's going to be more interesting and has a better chance of lasting for years to come. Done.
Thank you so much, Lenoir. And so next we're going to be joined by Shelby Fiegel, who's going to talk about community development in general and the Community Development Institute. And like I said, you guys, please feel free to use the chat and save your questions, and we'll have a little bit, I think we will have time for about 5 or 6 minutes of Q&A at the very end. So with that, take it away, Shelby.
Thanks, Erin. And I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if this will come up. Can you all see that? Thumbs up if you can. Okay, I see nodding, so I'm going to take that as a go. Okay. It's frozen.
Yeah.
Oh no, my whole screen is frozen.
Well, it's frozen. Yeah. We see your name and says you have started, but it's frozen. Yeah.
That is not good. I am not sure what is going on here. I've never had this happen before. Uh-oh.
So this is why I have everyone's backup. So I'm going to pull up.
Erin, my whole screen's frozen. I can't see anything.
Oh.
It's just frozen. If you all can hear me though, okay.
Here you have your slideshow up, and so I will try to follow. Oh, hang on one moment.
Yeah, if you can get that up, Erin, let me see if I can pull it from my phone and just follow along with the PowerPoint presentation, slide by slide, and I'll tell you next slide. As long as you all can hear me, it's literally completely frozen on my screen. And this has literally never happened before, but I think we'll be good. So okay,
I'm on the first slide. So, yeah, I think we can do this. So just tell me next slide, and hopefully we'll all be in this together.
Yeah. Now is Shelby frozen out of us?
Oh no, I don't hear Shelby at all.
I don't either. She's just, oh. Wonder if that's a testament to our wonderful Arkansas broadband.
Precisely.
Yeah, art and technology.
Okay, I'm going to come off of the share, because what we can do while we're waiting, maybe Shelby can come back in a minute, but you know, I do think we can take a minute for Q&A, or if anyone has any responses to the presentation from Mary or from Lenoir, we can go ahead and chat about that, and hopefully we'll see Shelby back in here in just a minute.
Well, as always, many times, I have to say this over and over because I know it is a different thing. But when I was listening to Lenoir and everybody else, and thinking about how do we begin to use our imagination just to see things differently, to see things that aren't there because we just don't see them. Our eyes have been trained to see what is the norm, and as all of you know, as creative people, the beauty in the arts so many times is seeing what's not the norm. And back to what Talisha was talking about when we talked about some of the art that some people didn't like. I love that notion of our thinking about pushing the envelope a little bit and not being intimidated by somebody might not like it, or this is not anything that anybody's going to appreciate. I think we have to be democratic in the arts. I think we have to push those kind of envelopes. And please, when we talk about this whole idea of art and technology and the creative economy, ask other people, you know, when you look at something, what do you see? I think I see, I see life.
Everybody.
Okay, so I'll stop talking so you can talk now. But anyway.
I'm so sorry for that. I don't know what. I just turned off my computer because it did not work. Erin, if you want to pull it up, are you able to share?
Yes, let me get to that. I like that we have multiple options here. We figure it out.
Oh my God, that was crazy. And I will try to cut down my time to make sure that everybody gets out on time. I apologize for that, everybody. Thank you, Erin. Okay, well, Erin's getting that to pull up. Thank you all so much for inviting me to speak. So my name is Shelby Fiegel. I'm with the University of Central Arkansas Center for Community and Economic Development. So we have a pretty interesting role here at the University of Central Arkansas. My team is actually in charge of working off campus with communities all across the state to uplift them in the areas of community and economic development, everything that falls under that umbrella. So that might include working with citizens to create grassroots engagement, really focusing on things, a lot of things that Talisha and our other speakers have been talking about. And it looks like, Erin, it's still not working. Is that right? There we go.
Okay. Thank you. All of us together.
Yes. So our mission across the state is to have a positive impact on communities by equipping leaders with economic tools and resources, building consensus to achieve community goals, bringing those UCA resources and communities together. And then we envision communities with robust economies, flourishing quality of life, and we want to create engaged and diverse citizen leaders. And so we can go to the next slide, Erin. And so I was going to get you all to engage in this question, but we might just real quick, what does community development mean to you? And just in the chat, send one word, and I'll share what that does mean once I get a couple of words from folks. So just the first thing that comes into your head, what does community and economic development mean? Just one word in the chat. Jobs, okay, collaboration, growth, absolutely. So Erin, you can click again for the formal definition of community development. And so in simplistic words, you all can read that yourselves, but community development is really just a series of improvements that take place over time as a result of common efforts through various groups of people. That's a really broad definition. And some people might have specific things in mind when we think of community development, but it's really just a process for growth and making your community a place everyone wants to live, work, and play in. And next slide, Erin. And so when we talk about economic development, again, I'm going to ask you in the chat to send one word, what you think of when you think of economic development. Opportunity. Jobs, absolutely. Jobs, probably more jobs. Engagement. We hear jobs as a word that comes up a lot when we think of economic development, or recruitment, or site selection, infrastructure. But really what economic development means in its formal definition, and Erin can click again, is just a program, group of policies, set of activities that seeks to improve the economic well-being and quality of life of a community. And that can be done by creating or retaining jobs that facilitate growth and provide a stable tax base, and really uplifting the citizens, creating that economic well-being for everyone in your community. So you see those obvious connections between community and economic development. They are meant to be connected, not separate. And we can go to the next slide, Erin. So the bottom line, and this is what we preach at the Community Development Institute and the Center for Community Economic Development, is, when you click, Erin, community development facilitates economic development. We have to create communities that people want to live, work, and play in. The communities are not just going to rise up, grow because you have that economic development. You can't have a large company come into a community and really change kind of the essential pieces, foundation that make up a community. The citizens and the people that live there need to have quality of education, need to have arts, need to have culture, have a story of their own, and that community development, all those pieces that people oftentimes forget about, really facilitate that economic growth at the local level. And Erin, we go to the next slide. And so the way that we do this at CCD CDI, if you're not familiar with our work, is we offer 2 pillars of service, which is training and technical assistance. That training primarily comes from our Community Development Institute, CDI, which has been going on for 36 years. We convene about 150 leaders across Arkansas at CDI on UCA's campus. Erin's a graduate and a PCD holder, which is Professional Community Economic Developer, as is Talisha. A lot of other folks on this call are familiar with CDI, have been a part of it. But we also take that a step further in acknowledging that not everyone has access to CDI. It's hard to take a full week out of your job, your life, to come to Conway for a week. So we also offer regional trainings. We offer virtual trainings. We also offer the Arkansas Racial Equity Summit, which we just found out yesterday. We've been supported again by the Arkansas Black Hall of Fame to host this fall. We do poverty simulations and lots of other economic development related simulations to bring leaders together to get on the same page. And so in turn, we take that training that we offer and we convert that into technical assistance support. So when we talk about technical assistance, it's really anything a community needs help with that we can support. We try to. Examples of that technical assistance work are strategic doing workshops, strategic plans, business climate surveys, walk audits, community convenings. We do a first impressions tour assessment. We take 2 communities and they swap places for a day. We do leadership development programs. We also have a VISTA program through AmeriCorps, where we put VISTA service members in communities to help them move forward with their strategic goals. And next slide, Erin. And just real quick, CDI, we are full for this year on attendance in our year 1 class. We take about 55 to 60 for our year 1. It's a 3-year program with an optional advanced year. But if you want to learn more about CDI and want to get involved, we already have a wait list for next year. So please go to uca.edu/CDI. My team has all of our contact information on there. So you can contact us if you're interested or if you just want to learn more. We also offer community events during the week of CDI too. Our keynote speaker does a community presentation, but CDI is really a lot of fun, a great way to learn and network. And next slide. And to be effective community and economic developer, you just have to be in constant learning mode. We're always learning. And so we just encourage everyone to attend convenings like this because they are so important as we do the work in our communities. And that last slide is just my contact information. But with that, Erin, we can send that out afterwards. So I'm going to try to let you wrap it up because we're getting close to the 2 o'clock mark and I do not want to go past 2 o'clock to be respectful of everybody's time. So I'm done.
Thank you so much. And I will echo the shout out for CDI. As someone personally who has a background in the arts, the time that I spent at CDI was really galvanizing to understand, I obviously believe the arts are important. A lot of us here in this meeting believe the arts are important, but to really look at how the arts impact community and how that impacts economic development, and has helped me as an individual, and I think a lot of other people, really advocate for the arts as an economic driver, as a quality of life driver. And so thank you for the work that you do, Shelby, as well. And so with that, if anyone has any questions, I'm going to open my chat now and see if any questions snuck in during your presentation as well. But feel free to jump in or put a question in the chat, anybody who has any comments or questions.
Well, I have a quick question. Could you say more, just a little bit about how you work out the community swaps, and how long does it last, or just anything you can tell me about that real quickly?
Yeah, Senator Elliott, are you referring to that first impressions tour assessment where we take the two communities, they swap places?
Yes, yes.
Oh, yes. So that's called a first impressions tour assessment. So I'll give the example. We're working actually with England and Hamburg right now to do that process. So they identify, we have a point of contact in the community. Traditionally, we work through the chamber or the mayor of any given community. And so they select 5 to 8 community leaders. And when we say community leaders, we're saying chamber, elected officials, business leaders, nonprofits, education are primarily the areas that we want to touch in that representative group. So they identify that group. We have a really cool assessment tool, which I'd be happy to share with everyone. It's a packet that encourages them to, when they travel to that other community, they take a day without any preconceived notions, hopefully, and they just kind of drive through and assess, what does their infrastructure look like, their streets, sidewalks, what does their business community look like? We want them to visit different businesses, see how they interact from a customer service level. Is their downtown, is it accessible, walkable? Does it look like in their community people have things to do? Does it look like the community's engaged as far as from a marketing perspective? Can you find things in the community? Is there appropriate signage? So it's really a very high level look at what a visitor, site selector, potential future citizen, what they see when they come in your community. And as a part of that process, once we get all of those notes together, we do debriefs with both communities, and we help them work through their notes to identify opportunities or next steps that those leaders can move forward on. Some of those things might be short and actionable, and some might be more long-term. And then after we do the debrief, we follow up with both of those communities and say, hey, what can we help you with? We've gotten this list of next steps. Is there anything that UCA can support and you moving forward? So it's a really cool process, a great way, just a foundational thing that we can do to support communities and set a plan in motion for the future. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. I see there are some other questions. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then this may be our last question, because I think we have 1 minute. And this may come from the audience or the presenters, but the question in the chat is, since the legislature passed the 20% tax credit last year for television and film in Arkansas, what have the communities and arts organizations been doing to bring more film and television production into the state? So if anyone has some insight as to what they may be doing in their communities, please share.
I mean, I will say, this is more of a comment than a specific example, but I think definitely having a relationship with Christopher Crane at the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. I know from the communities that I've been aware of that take advantage of that program, they're coordinating through Chris Crane. So those filmmakers, producers, director, whoever is reaching out to Chris, and they have a specific kind of setting that they're looking for. And then Chris, if you have a relationship with him, that's going to be the best way to kind of hear about those opportunities. I know, for example, in Lone Oak, they recently were reached out to, and they had a film, a part of a film done in Lone Oak, Arkansas. But I know Chris is pretty essential in making those projects move forward. So if you don't have a relationship with him, I would say reach out to him, get a meeting. get you on his radar.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct there. And then, and unfortunately, I'm not going to have any specific details, but we have had a film shooting over the winter here in Hot Springs. There were times you'd go downtown and the entire downtown was blocked off while that film was happening. And then we do know there's another small independent film coming to Hot Springs. So so we're happy to see that happening, and hopefully that's what's driving it, is that that 20% tax credit. That's been a conversation that's been going on for years to try to get more film and TV here in Arkansas. So it's good to hear that it's happening in other communities. And so with that, I know we've got a couple of things going in the chat, but it is exactly 2:02, and so we're keeping you guys after. I want to go ahead and let us go. But again, great thanks to Senator Joyce Elliott for starting this entire thing. Thank you to all of our presenters today, for the legislators who are here on the call, and all of you for joining us. We really appreciate that. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can definitely do any other connections. There were contact information in the chat. Utilize that and contact Mary or Talisha or Shelby or Lenoir, anyone, if you have further questions or want to be connected. So again, thank you so much. You all will hear about it a little bit more in the next couple of days, but we do have one more boot camp coming up next week that we're doing via Zoom about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the state of Arkansas around the arts. So we definitely invite all of you to be there for that and watch your emails to get the information. So again, thank you. Thank you for sharing your time with us, and we'll talk to you all again soon.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.